This might just solve the entire Donkey Kong Bananza mystery. Hello everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and today we are going to be talking about some more findings in Donkey Kong Bananza that may finally help us to get a proper understanding of some of the biggest mysteries in Donkey Kong Bananza, such as where does Donkey Kong Bananza take place in the timeline? How might it relate to Super Mario Odyssey? Is Donkey Kong's longtime rival, King K. Rool, truly making his return? And what's going on with this leak from Nintendo of Korea with this young girl on Donkey Kong's shoulder that looks like a younger Pauline? And how might this relate to Oddrock? Well, today, after everything we've noticed and a little bit more information that Nintendo's put out there, we might just know what is going on with Donkey Kong Bananza. So that's what we're getting into today. And here I am jumping on camera to talk to you about the Switch 2 tomtoc carrying cases. They come in a few different colors, as I just showed a few right there. I actually also have a black one over here, and they feel really great, super high quality, nice little handle here. But I also have this tomtoc sling bag as well that can also house a Nintendo Switch 2. It works pretty great. So if you're curious about these carrying cases, check the link in the description below, and also thank you to tomtoc for sponsoring today's video. So because time is of the essence today, I'm going to be taking a more simpler approach to today's video, a little bit more simple on the editing. It's kind of a big day for my family, it's my grandma's last day at the house and all, so I don't have as much time to dedicate to doing this, but I really want to talk about this, so here we are. Now, there's a lot of things to keep in mind when we're talking about what's going on with the mystery surrounding Donkey Kong Bananza. I already have multiple videos on the topic, so if you want to check out the full explanation and everything, check those prior videos. But just a brief sort of summary recap here. We have seen a lot of evidence surrounding this idea of the Kremlings, and by extension their leader, King K. Rool, making a return. In the Lagoon area, we've seen several dialogues between Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong where he references King K. Rool repeatedly. We also have the Crocoids, which are these rock-like enemies that when you break them down, you find these golden skeletons that look very much like the skeletal remains for a Kremling or some sort of crocodile creature. And we've also seen that you can collect ancient maps throughout this game, and these maps reflect prior Donkey Kong areas, including the northern Kremisphere. But Nintendo has put out some new screenshots for Donkey Kong Bananza from the Nintendo Today app, hence why you see here of the more vertical nature of the screenshots. And here from this screenshot, there isn't really anything too crazy about what we're seeing here. We're just seeing another shot at the lagoon. It looks pretty great. However, here's another area here. Again, maybe not too big of a deal, but it's this screenshot right here that I think is actually a huge deal. Why? This area is where we've seen the giant Kong, maybe like King Kong. He's on a throne and all. And he's in an area that we've seen from the Nintendo Treehouse they do not want us to go. So whenever we've gone close to here, they pull us away. Or from the experience events, you're booted out. You cannot get to this point from Nintendo has allowed people to play, and in the Treehouse, they don't want people to go here. But as you may notice right here up front, pretty much in center, almost, is a big chunk of a ship. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, let me show you. Here I am in Donkey Kong Country, the original Donkey Kong Country. And here I am, booting in the final boss area. This is Gangplank Galleon. And who's that? That is King K. Rool on this ship. So, the point I'm making here is that, this thing we see from Nintendo Today is, yeah, Gangplank Galleon, King K. Rool's ship. So it's just another little piece of evidence that King K. Rool has made his return. Now, as you may notice, this is a broken down ship. Maybe it's not King K. Rool's ship. Maybe it's just a random ship. Sure, that is possible. But it's very worthy of note because a ship is a big thing from Donkey Kong Country. It is the final stage in Donkey Kong Country. And also notice all the cargo containers, how old they are. There's been a depiction of old things in this game. Another example, we go to, by the way, yes, I still have my goal to hit 50,000 subscribers, so if you find yourself enjoying my content, your subscription would be appreciated. Hopefully we can hit 50k by the time June 5th comes around, the launch of Switch 2 and Mario Kart World. But take a look at this screenshot here. This shows these monkey statues. Like, this is just another example of this game depicting an ancient world, an ancient time with a lot of history. But these monkey statues would be separate from what we've seen of this ship here. There are two different things, but the main point is that there's clearly a long history with things that have happened in the past. So it has us wondering how much time has transpired. What is going on here? It has us wondering, who is this version of Donkey Kong? What's going on with Donkey Kong Jr.? Is Donkey Kong the son of Cranky Kong or the grandson of Cranky Kong? There's a lot of confusion there because in different games, they have said different things. In DK64 in the Mario movie, Donkey Kong is the son of Cranky Kong. In the Country games, he is the grandson. But then we don't know what happened with Donkey Kong Jr. Some people speculate, myself included, that Nintendo simply moved away from the idea, and Donkey Kong Jr. really just a younger form of current-day Donkey Kong, but some like to think that maybe Donkey Kong Jr. is a long-lost father of current-day Donkey Kong. So what happened to him? Like I said, I think it's just a retcon, but who knows? Maybe as we learn more about Donkey Kong Bananza, more mysteries of the entire Donkey Kong universe will be solved. But there's something else that's been going around that I've been very, very curious on. So as you see here from this Reddit post, apparently there is a skeletal remain of some sort of crocodile or Kremlin, because look how long those arms are, right? That's more of a humanoid-like shape, but with claws like a crocodile and also the face of a crocodile. In other words, yes, this is a Kremlin skeleton. Where is this in this game? Is this fake? Is this from something else? I had some serious trouble finding it, but I did finally find it. It's actually around this area here. So as we advance, you'll see they're going to pull out for a moment. And there it is. Right here. In the first segment of the Nintendo Treehouse, there is a skeletal remain of a Kremlin. And just for the record, this is nowhere else. We haven't seen any other skeletal remains at all throughout any of this section, from what I've seen at least. And I've been looking through trying to find this. So this is huge. This is not a golden skeleton inside a crocoid, which already seems like substantial evidence, but literally a Kremlin skeleton in Ingot Isle in the beginning of Donkey Kong Bananza. So what does this mean? Well, what I think it means is it's something insane or crazy or cool, magical, however you choose to word it, has happened in Ingot Isle across time. The fact that we are seeing Kremlin remains in Ingot Isle shows that there is a history here. Perhaps once upon a time, this used to be where the Kremlins used to be. And actually, this is interesting because we have seen that from the treehouse, when Voidco comes into play, they have this giant fireball meteor rock thing that pushes Ingot Isle down below the surface. And from this shot, we have seen that it looks very similar to the Lost World and Crocodile Core. We have this lake, we have this entrance, and it's been speculated that perhaps once upon a time, where Ingot Isle is, it used to be where the Kremlins were, where King K. Rool were, where they had this bluish pinkish energy that we've seen all throughout the world of Donkey Kong Bananza. So seeing a skeletal remain of a Kremlin here further supports that theory. But there's another element to consider here. Actually, there's a few other elements, but one I'm going to point out now. There's a lot of banandium that you find in this area. The story of this game is that there's some special new resource here, this banandium. It's not normal bananas, it's golden, fossilized, rock-shaped bananas. Why have they changed? Why is there Banandium? Could it perhaps be that maybe this used to be Krokor, a home base for the Kremlins who had stolen bananas over time, and these bananas across a long period of time have fossilized into Banandium, and perhaps there's something else required. There may be another component, perhaps this bluish pinkish energy that transforms these bananas over time. Maybe there's something going on there as well. But then if that's the case, I find it quite curious that when all the monkeys and the Kongs and Donkey Kong finally go here to check it out, that's when Voidco strikes and send them down below. Might this have been a plan the whole time? Could this have been a trap? Look at how many Kongs have been trapped down here, thrown down here. It may have been the plan. They talk about in the treehouse how there were rumors of this Banandium, which brought all the monkeys, Kongs, and DK here. Who started spreading this rumor? Perhaps Voidco, or perhaps another leader of Voidco, who has a history of storing banana hoards, which Cranky Kong does reference. We have seen that the monkey, the apparent leader of Voidco, has this weird, like, banana thing. Could it be perhaps some sort of communication device or something else? Maybe some sort of wand? Like, there's a few different possibilities here. But I think there's a strong chance that this may have been a trap, a planned trap. But now I want to go to this part of the Ingot Isle scene, or level, because we see something pretty interesting that happens, a couple very interesting things that happen during this scene, and I had not noticed them until recently when you go like frame by frame, because when you go frame by frame, you notice a lot more, right? And there are some very interesting things going on here. First off, this other area where Donkey Kong is at that's being flown out from is still part of Ingot Isle. As you see here, it says Ingot Isle. It's all Ingot Isle. But it's this scene here that I find actually extremely interesting for at least two reasons. Maybe I'll find more later on. But you'll see that, yes, we see the different crocoids here. A lot of really scary looking crocodile heads with the golden eyes. I've talked about in a prior video how we've noticed that some of the crocoids seem to have one eye that's bigger than the other, which reminds us of King K. Rool, who has that one eye that clearly looks irritated that's bigger than the other. But notice over here, these eyes for this particular crocoid, it's like darting left and right. You see that? But it's also pulsating. Look at that. Look how much bigger it gets. You see that? How it changes in size? There's something very weird going on with the eyes for this particular crocoid. And yeah, we speculate that maybe King K. Rool is the real leader of them all, right? And perhaps through some sort of magical, weird, ancient power or undead powers, we're not sure, he is watching things through the crocoids, and maybe in particular this one right here, given just how active the eyes are for this particular one in comparison to all the others, and maybe he can jump from one to the other whenever he wants. So that's just an interesting thing I've noticed. But there's something else that I completely missed. Maybe some of you had seen it already, but I had not. And that's that Voidco right here, they're actually holding Oddrock in this section, which I did not notice beforehand. And so it's really interesting, like, where is Voidco in this shot? I assume that they are on top of this giant rock that's going to then crush Ingot Isle, right? You would assume that, and right now they have Oddrock. And so as we scroll forward, right, what happens here, we see that the giant rock, yeah, it crushes Ingot Isle, or pushes it down, I should say. Right, we assume that Voidco was up here, based off what we saw. But something really weird happens that has me speculating that something else is going on here. So skipping forward, there it is. So we look up to the sky, right, and we see something come down from the sky, and this is Oddrock. And I find this to be odd, because Ingot Isle was pushed downwards by this giant thing, and I assumed that they all came down here already, but Voidco was holding Oddrock, yet Oddrock is being shot up here. So maybe Voidco isn't even down here right now. which I find to be interesting. Now, going back a little bit here for a second, just me taking another look at what happens in this cutscene. We don't actually see, like, we see it press in, and it flashes, and then after the flash, we see the hole. Like, so we assume that that giant rock stayed down there, right? But we don't know where that giant rock is because it's not here in the cave-in section. It's a giant structure. So where is it? Is, like, this to me just looks like Ingot Isle, and then the banana part of Ingot Isle got destroyed left and right, the left sides. It's not in one piece anymore. So it's very weird what's going on there. But now let's hone in on Oddrock, because this is, I think, the key to it all right? Oddrock is more than just an odd rock. I'm trying to go to the area here, right? Oddrock is terrified of Donkey Kong. Terrified of monkeys. And I've already theorized in the past that the reason why Oddrock is inexplicably terrified of monkeys, specifically monkeys, not Donkey Kong, who doesn't have a tail, who's technically not a monkey, is because the evil monkey from Voidco terrorized Oddrock, and we know that Voidco was literally holding Oddrock, and of course we have all the Voidco wrappings. So yeah, something has happened to Oddrock here. But we also see, after Oddrock runs away, when Donkey Kong catches up to Oddrock, right, I think she, is still scared, but is almost cowering like a little child, and Donkey Kong starts singing to her, and yeah, like, she starts getting excited, more trusting of DK, right, and then they pal up. Now, I've been theorizing that Oddrock is essentially a transformed version of young Pauline. And I theorize this because, one, Pauline, as we've seen from the leak, rides Donkey Kong's shoulder, just like Oddrock does. We know that normal Pauline is a singer from Mario Odyssey, and we see that Oddrock is also a singer as well. But we've also seen this childlike quality to Oddrock, which leaves me speculating that maybe there is more of a connection to this younger kid that looks like Pauline. But then on top of that, we've seen that Pauline holds or has this wrist bracelet, right? And it has these purple rocks very similar to Oddrock. So I think there's a connection here. And something dawned on me recently, especially now that we've seen the original skeleton of the Kremlins as a normal skeleton. So when we see the Crocoids that are golden skeletons and they've changed, something weird has happened, and we see all these different Crocoids with Voidco, also with Oddrock, and so it really has me thinking that the game is teasing something here. It's teasing that there is a connection between Oddrock and the Crocoids. Oddrock may play a significant role as to what's going on with the Crocoids as well. Perhaps the Crocoids have been changed through some sort of special magic or technology, and they used to be just dead Kremlins. And they've been resurrected, they've been transformed into golden skeletal Kremlins encased with these rocks and have become the Crocoids. And so if Oddrock is actually a younger Pauline of some kind, and we know that eventually Oddrock can become Pauline, maybe there's something going on with these Crocoids as well, and also there was a transformation. And if that's the case, clearly, the history of the Kremlins and King K. Rool are in mind here, and I would assume King K. Rool is playing a significant part to this. If this was really a trap, perhaps he's the mastermind behind it all. He's been known to not care too much about his brethren, his people, so him resurrecting all of the dead Kremlins to get back at the Kongs, transforming them into Crocoids, doesn't seem like that much of a stretch to me, and it might be the case that they were experimenting with this younger Pauline girl at first to kind of see how this magic might work. Or perhaps King K. Rool might want to find Oddrock because it could play a role in perhaps resurrecting the Kremlins if he wants to go in that direction. There's a few possibilities here, but I think what's clear is that Oddrock clearly is a significant key to the mystery of this all. But there is something else that I noticed from another section of the DK universe that I think gives us a little bit more insight into what is going on with DK Bananza. And so here we are in New Donk City, which, yes, is part of the expanded DK universe, because guess what? Mario and Donkey Kong are a part of the same universe. And I think this is important to bring up because we've already long speculated that Donkey Kong Bananza, well, at the time we didn't know what it would be called, but that there was a 3D Donkey Kong game in development by at least part of the 3D Mario team. And many people have made note that the UI elements and such in DK Bananza are very, very similar. I mean, just look at this piece of dialogue here. You see the little face of Pauline, right? And I think this is interesting because it kind of just shows this sort of style of showing these little like icons for important characters or items in the game. They do that in Mario Odyssey, they do it in Donkey Kong Bananza. Clearly there are some similarities here. But what I want to get to here is just how New Donk City very clearly references the Donkey Kong universe. You have Cranky Avenue, Cranky Kong, you have Dixie Street, obviously Dixie Kong, and you have Diddy's Mart, Diddy Kong. So clearly there are references here to important Kongs that we haven't seen yet in DK Bananza. We've seen Cranky Kong, but not Dixie, not Diddy yet. And I think we've only seen the very beginning of the game, especially Diddy Kong, very important characters. So I would expect to see them at some point. And literally here they're referenced in New Donk City, which I think is, at least lore-wise, probably a part of the same world as Donkey Kong Bananza. But I think what's more important here is this depiction of the original damsel from the original Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong over there, and also the original Mario or Jumpman. But as you see here, that Jumpman looks very different from the Jumpman we know today. Notice how Mario has brown hair, this Jumpman has a black mustache, a black hair, different from current day Mario. Now you might say, oh, well, it's just an old picture, they're not going to show off all the colors. But something interesting is that Donkey Kong, who we know to be Cranky Kong of today, has his hair color depicted as brown, right? So I think there is a clear distinction here. And also this damsel, who we used to think is the normal Pauline, well, her hair is blonde, right? But the depiction of current day Pauline is not blonde. She's a brunette. She has brown hair. I mean, here she is right here. Pauline has brown hair, right? Like, this looks like the adult version of the younger Pauline we've seen in the leak. And so I think there's something being depicted here that's really important. I don't think the original Donkey Kong characters, Jumpman, who came to be known as Mario, the damsel, Pauline, or Donkey Kong, they're not the modern day Pauline, they're not the modern day Mario, not the modern day Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong's confirmed, Pauline and Mario no, but simply based off the way they are depicted and how they are depicted in modern day, there is a difference here. And so when we take into consideration that we also have this younger looking Pauline, I think what we have to keep in mind is that there are generations of the Kongs, there are generations of Mario, perhaps, and generations of Pauline. So it may be the case that Donkey Kong Bananza is in current day. It's definitely not in the past, given the history we've seen with the Kremlin statues and Gangplank Galleon being totally destroyed and old. Like, there's clearly a lot of things that have happened in the past. And so I think what's being depicted here is just a new time. And really, that's what I think is going on. The Donkey Kong Country games, all those events happened in the past. Kremlins are dead now. Inningot Isle used to be Croc Core, a home base for the Kremlins. The bananas changed through time. But King K. Rool somehow seems to be alive in some way. We don't know if he's in his normal form or some sort of undead form or some sort of crazy ancient wizard form. We're not sure, but there's clearly a lot of evidence that the Kremlins and King K. Rool are relevant to the overall story for DK Bananza. And Oddrock, who I believe is likely younger Pauline, or perhaps Pauline's daughter or nephew or something like that, the next generation, what happens to her is also closely related to what happened to the Kremlins or the Kremlin remains and how they became the Crocoids. So looking at all this stuff, I think we're getting really close to truly understanding exactly what's going on in Donkey Kong Bananza. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.